Right, so the continuation. Coleman's Facebook contained multiple recent attacks on Freemasons, including a post from a Flat Earth meme page that falsely implied the small fraternal organization actually controlled the world's large tech companies, or that they were involved in plots to harm people with vaccinations. He also repeatedly promoted a large Flat Earth Facebook group and is Facebook friends with Mac Parhar, Flat Earth Fokker, a prominent Canadian flat earther. Parhar, who did not return a request for comment, made headlines in 2020 when his yoga studio was shut down after he falsely claimed that yoga could cure COVID-19. Soon thereafter, he became the subject of criminal investigation after he filmed himself entering a hospital COVID-19 area without authorization. Because I guess hospitals aren't public anymore. I mean, it's not like he was in the prescription room. Parhar was eventually arrested in November after he allegedly traveled to the U.S. No, he was there. It wasn't alleged. I have pictures with him, Daily Beast, for a Flat Earth conference in South Kakalaki called Flattoberfest, and failed to quarantine after his return to Canada. Incredibly, the Tuesday arsons were not the first time a flat earther was reported to burn a Masonic building. This happened in Australia also. While the conference was still in its planning stages, its two organizers reportedly got in an argument, prompting one nicknamed Trigger to get drunk and set fire to a Masonic lodge. I guess this is the Australian one. Trigger just lost the plot. He tried to burn down a Masonic lodge and got arrested. In all actuality, the heck? Yeah, reload. Hang on a second here, it just went on the fritz here. The Daily Beast loves ads, let's just put it that way. It like slows down your ability to read things. Alright. Alright, well, I have one of Daily Beast's advertisements to try to get me to sign up for their website, and it's like blocking my ability to read the rest of the article. So basically, if you just type in Flat Earther Busted or Flat Earther, Masonic Lodge or something like that, and you can read the Daily Beast one. I wanted to get to like the quotes that this guy had to say, or like what he had to say. But Karen B, Brian Stavely, and Mac and Rose 777 all talked about this yesterday in a live stream. So I'll have to put some things together for the next live stream to be able to share links and whatnot. Let me see. Just kind of it's just try to do something with technology, and all it does is just continue to irritate you. Let me see if I can share it on DLive here. Yeah, that was pretty cool with that singer guy, James. Hope it all works out for him. He seemed a little heavy focused on possibly some stuff that might not matter. But hopefully he'll figure it out. Yeah, I wanted to read that article, but oh well. Christopher David, thanks a lot. Good to see ya. Critical Inception. Kelsey Kish, what's good? Christy Truther. And so on and so on. Everybody else in the background. I'll premiere this on my other YouTube channel. Try to create some traction. How you doing? Can't complain today. No more snow. But tomorrow I'll complain, because then, you just kind of move on. You're just like, okay, yeah, there's no more snow. Big deal. Then complain about the wind, and then get over that, and then you don't dwell on things. You don't gotta keep putting the hands to the plow over stuff you can't control. Like earlier with Sam. When Sam was here and he was listening to James play the guitar, he talked about they lost their Monopoly card. They were collecting these. The guy earlier that I was talking to, I don't think you saw him. I can't focus on this. There it is. Illinois Avenue. They left Illinois Avenue. Makes sense because Chicago. Hi, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
So,
So, yeah.
what do you believe?
Well, I know that water lays level and flat when contained. And so at what point, at how high do you have to be and how much water do you have to have it bend to make a ball floating in outer space of which you've never seen before with your own eyes?
Wait, how it bent? So, like, you're saying, because, like, the scientists are saying that the Earth is a sphere, but you're saying that how high do you have to be?
Yeah, I mean, like, if we were in outer space right now, for example,
Yeah.
right? How far away are we from the Earth to see it in all of its grandeur? Like, to be astral,
moon.
to
Yeah,
be
on the
astral
moon.
project
On the moon.
on the moon? You can't just float in outer space and see it.
I mean, I
Seems
guess with
like-
astral projection,
Well,
you probably
okay, I
could.
don't want to confuse you, but what I'm saying is that they tell us we live here, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So have you ever seen your home yourself? Like, this is your temple, right? Okay, so physically, objectively, this is our temple right here, Earth.
It's our house.
Okay, so have you been outside of it to see it from outside the perspective?
I haven't personally.
Me neither. Yeah, I've only seen it here on TV and
Sure.
books and stuff.
But I
Yeah.
have flown drones high enough
So-
to see the curvature of the Earth.
You can't fly a drone high enough to see the curvature of the Earth because you can't legally fly one higher than 1,500 feet, right?
That's legally.
Okay, so you can't get high. How high do you have to be to see curvature of the Earth?
I think it looks pretty curvy. even
How
though,
high do you have to scientifically be to use all the angles and everything to determine the horizon and
I
everything?
don't know off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but from my perspective, I don't have to see something to believe, I guess, like the science behind it.
Okay,
Like,
then you can be
I
deceived
know-
and tarried on into imagination
I do
and things
have
that
a
you
question
can't
for you, though.
believe.
What do you think about the moon?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Do you think it's flat?
It's a circle.
Do you think it's a sphere?
Well, it's a circle.
What do you think the shape of the Earth?
I can't go around the moon to see.
Oh
Well,
yeah, that was your question. Sorry.
yeah. I mean, I can't go around the moon to see it's a sphere because I just have this perspective and I don't have the resources to do that.
Sure,
And you're assuming that you can travel to the moon. You know,
is
no, I mean just in general, human beings assume they can travel to the moon,
Oh, sure.
but it's not scientifically possible.
Sure.
It's not.
To go to the moon.
Yeah, because outer space is scientifically impossible and not real because you need a solid barrier to have two pressure systems next to each other with a solid barrier. So you can't have the 14 to negative tour of the infinite vacuum of space, and what they always tell us, and our pressure system of 14.6 psi next to each other without a solid barrier. Because eventually you have equilibrium that happens, like with your, pop can.
Right.
Okay,
If you can.
I was trying to help you out.
Oh, sorry.
But it's a can, right?
Right,
And
right.
so before you pop the tab, it's pressurized.
Super strong.
Okay, it is super strong, right?
Once
And
you pop, it's not.
but yeah, exactly. So once you allow the air to come in, it creates equilibrium, and then things can flow together. So there has to be an incredible solid barrier to keep the infinite vacuum of space, which none of us here have ever gone to carry on that narrative.
Because everything wants to be in equilibrium.
Well, everything does. Yeah, everything
What would
wants
you
to be
say-
even
I just had
and
a
level out.
Random question. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
What would you say to an actual astronaut who has literally been to the moon, or even to one of the satellites? Like, what would you say to that person who's literally been like, I've been to the moon. I'm an astronaut.
Yeah, so Buzz Aldrin had a conversation with like an 8 or 9-year-old girl a couple of years ago, and she asked him about the moon landing, and he said, we've never actually been there before. It's just something people believe. And that was caught on camera.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I mean, I could share it with you.
That'd be cool.
But it's just an interesting, perspective
You
that
basically just don't believe if like astronauts have like.
why do I have to believe somebody went somewhere or
you don't
did
have to
something
believe
that's
it.
so incredibly, if you want to say you went to Australia or Thailand or something like that,
I've been to Thailand.
okay, or the North Pole or something like that, at least that's tangible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, at least through the scientific method, which nobody uses nowadays,
Right.
eventually it comes to, I can duplicate what you just claimed,
Yeah.
and then I can do it myself within the means of my resources.
I have a question.
So,
I
yeah,
flew to China, going east.
okay.
because the wind was like ideal or whatever. I have no
Sure.
idea why they chose to go that way.
Yeah.
When I came home, they flew the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like technically I went one way around,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up in the same place allegedly. Well, I don't know because I'm in a plane, right?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work out?
See, at least you're starting because you're like, I don't know, like, could
Exactly.
you know, because
You could've just said.
it's all on a computer screen in front of you, and you're just taking it for what it's worth. If it gets you safely from A to B,
Doesn't matter.
big deal. What do I got to question everything for,
That's
right?
true.
But so did you have any stops or anything like that? Did
Nothing
you?
significant. So like, I think when I flew there, we went from here to LA, stopped in LA, which is like no big deal, right? And then went from LA like all the way over to Shanghai,
Sure.
and then Shanghai, Qingdao, which is like no big deal, it's like a little jaunt,
Yeah.
and then Qingdao all the way back to it's cool, Minneapolis.
Sure. Yeah. And there's instead of thinking about the globe, in the center here is the North Pole.
Yeah.
And so I've never been to the ice ring or anything like that. That's what some flat earthers feel
Yeah.
they're led to think. But
Yeah.
I've never seen it before with my own eyes, so I don't really go into that much.
Sure.
But, to travel around the lake is really no different than traveling around the world. Because if you go from, where are we? LA,
Yeah.
Australia, Thailand, South Africa, South America, then you're back. So this is all you're doing. And the quickest way between 2 points is a straight line.
Right.
And so I worked in a restaurant. I never served or anything, but you want to turn tables within 45 minutes
Sure.
because you want to make money.
Right.
And so from airplanes, from going from A to B, they're going to go to the shortest path to create the quickest way to make money.
Right.
And that's exactly what they do. So if you really look at the connecting points on a flat Earth or a A.E. Gleason's map like that,
Yep.
and compare them to the globe Earth, they don't make sense on the globe,
Sure.
but they do on a flat Earth.
So you think it's like not a sphere, but like a circle that's flat?
So what people think is that the Earth, if it were flat, is a record floating in outer space, right? Outer space has to be real because I saw it on TV, okay?
Yeah.
And they tell us. I've never been there. I don't want to question authority. I don't want to be one of those guys or girls. Just, let me get the A+, right? Okay, so,
Or a C minus.
right. Well, for me, I'm of the ilk that believes I was created, okay, and I came from the ground and everything. And so that creator is infinite and has infinite consciousness and can
Wait,
do
what
and
creator?
well, I mean, we can discuss that maybe on another time, but I'll just get to my point, right? I think that the sky and the ground go on horizontally, parallel with each other infinitely forever, and there's just more continents.
So there is no edge.
There is no edge. You can't fall off the edge of a lake.
That's
You're
true.
just showing
That's
up. You're
fact.
just showing up on the shore of another landmass, and then you keep walking, and then what do you happens? You're in Minneapolis if you keep going across the lake, and that's the same thing. So again, back to when I introduced, how much water do you need for it to start to bend? Because water has to bend to do that.
Right.
How far? How high? How much? So water lays level and flat when contained. When we're calm and it's not windy out today because there's some, wake on the lake a little bit. But when it's calm and it's like 6 a.m. in the morning,
Yep.
it's a mirror of
Yeah.
the sky.
Yep.
And the Bolivian salt flats do the same thing for miles and miles. And there's no curvature. It's only atmospheric distortion. The atmosphere distorts the horizon, and the horizon is alleged. It can be 5 miles one day and 10 miles another day. Look at your app on your phone. It says on your weather, distance you can see, 10 miles.
Right.
So how is it people can tell me they can see curvature from the ground and the sky
Yeah.
at the same time? Then you're definitely seeing curvature from an airplane,
Oh yeah.
and we don't see it. But they tell me they can see it at 6 feet from the eye level on the shoreline. So what happens is when a ship is traveling further away, the sun has beaten down on the water surface for so long, it warms the surface of the water up, but underneath 6-7 feet down it's cold, right?
Sure.
So the water is being evaporated,
Right.
and then it compounds onto itself, and then it creates the images that you see with your eyes of it, a mirage.
Sure.
And it looks like the boat is floating on the water.
Yeah. So
But-
how did you? I don't want to stop you.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Because it's very interesting. I love learning about stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me.
How did you learn all about all this stuff? And when?
Somebody introduced it to me.
Oh really? Like,
Yeah.
How long ago?
4 years, April this year.
4 years
Yeah,
ago?
4 years ago this month. Yeah.
So until then, you thought it was.
I mean, I started doing activism for this
Sure.
4 years ago. I heard about it late 2015,
Sure.
in the fall of
So
2015.
until then, you were kind of just like the average Joe.
I had this on my screensaver on my computer. I
Sure.
thought that was where I lived. And then I
You
find
had
out
the flat Earth one or the
I had the
sphere?
globe.
The globe, the
Yeah,
spherical
the globe. Yeah, I believed in outer space. I was a Trekkie.
Oh yeah.
I
actually
love
never seen the
space.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But-
all very interesting.
but
What do you think about the Mars landing? Does that have any sort of impact on any of this? Or
Yeah, I mean it's ritualistic.
It's neat, right?
Yeah, it's neat. I don't think it's real.
oh,
It's
just some
all
bullshit.
CGI.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean it's all done on Earth.
Sure.
They can't test things on Earth in
Right.
an environment they've never been for to land on.
Sure.
That's totally logical. It's illogical to think you can do something here on Earth and then bring it to another area where you've never been before
Yeah.
and
But-
think it's going to work perfectly.
But if they were hypothetically there before, like they said they were, which may or may not be true, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If, like, no matter what you or me thinks, there's no way at all to say if they were there or not because we don't know, right?
I would doubt they are
Right.
personally.
Right.
I don't invest my time into it. That's why I like coming out to the lake and challenging the idea.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
'Cause, like they were all about. I know this last time they went, they brought a helicopter there, which was like the first.
Yeah, how do you propel a helicopter with less atmosphere that you're testing the helicopter here in this atmosphere
Or more
to create
atmosphere.
less?
Technically, you wouldn't know.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I mean, if you're testing it here and it flies, then you bring it to someplace else that has a totally different
Atmosphere.
density to the ether in which you live.
Yep.
How do you propel that?
Yeah, because the scientists were saying on Mars it's like so thin of an atmosphere, allegedly, right?
They don't know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
allegedly,
like
right?
if I were to wave my hand in my face indoors,
You wouldn't feel it.
yeah, you would wave your hand like as fast as you could. You'd feel the breeze here on Earth. You'd feel like 100th of that on Mars,
Right.
allegedly. So they had to design their drone helicopter, which is the first drone to ever fly allegedly on a planet, right?
Yeah, and how are they controlling it? From how far away?
Autonomous.
When I drive
I mean, it's
around
supposed to be
here, I lose cell
autonomously.
phone signal.
Yeah, it's supposed to be autonomous. Like
Yeah.
no one's flying it because the delay is allegedly like 11 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like they're saying, oh, this drone can like the computer can tell the drone it's a good day to go fly, and it
Mm-hmm.
goes flies. You know, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's no way to
Can't verify it.
say that that's true or not. But
Yeah, I mean, and that's cool. I mean, I used to be in that type of imagination also, but what I do now is I completely go off the rails. Okay, so there's a TV show called Space Cadets.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of it before?
No, but is it on like Netflix or Hulu?
Yeah, it's actually on YouTube. So, it's called Space Cadets. It's BBC. No, wait, it's Channel 4,
Gotcha.
and it's got all of the. Here, I'll just give you this, and
Yeah.
then you can share that with
Oh,
your friends.
oh, sweet, thanks.
And so, on this show, I don't want to give too much of it away because it is very fascinating. But what they do is they plant like a few agents, and then they plant some normal people into this idea that they're traveling into outer space.
Yeah.
And they are able to carry on the narrative for so long, and then you find out what these people actually thought, later on. But the concept of it was fascinating because they were able to tarry along these people to think that they were actually in outer space when they were just in some building.
So there was actual people who like kind of like a game show, right?
Yeah.
Where, like they thought they were going outer space.
Yeah.
Really.
Yep. And so the show was able to.
That
The
is
show
cool.
was able to, it was pretty interesting. So from that idea, I think that what they could do is they could put people in stasis
Yeah.
and say that they're going to Mars.
Yeah.
And then they could wake us all up here,
Yeah.
and then they will come out into a building and it'll have domes.
Yeah.
And we'll be inside of a dome and we'll come up. Do you ever see what's that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie on Mars? Total Recall.
Yep.
So just like Total Recall, you'll wake up in that environment.
Right.
So you won't even experience the travel. You'll just wake up in it.
Yeah.
How are you to know the exterior of that dome is what they say it is?
Right.
It could be 8K resolution, VR, augmented reality. You don't know unless you were to break through.
Right.
But you're not going to break through it
Yeah.
because you're terrified of the outer space and the vacuum of space and everything, right?
Right.
Just like when they break that dome, the pressure from the outside comes in.
Yeah.
What it's trying to do is equilibrium, equalize itself.
Yeah.
So it's just that the breeze is just equilibrium happening.
Sure.
So then they close that. That's why you have to have a solid barrier
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we were to wake up out of stasis and go on to this Mars that they tell us, which they could claim in 10 years, when they produce, some news that Elon Musk is sending people to Mars,
Yeah.
and then all of these people, I've never met these people before.
Right.
They could be part of some group that has nefarious means or just, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they could be genuine people who are so kind of, I use the term and I don't mean any offense, but kind of indoctrinated into the system. And so they actually do believe where they're at is real.
Right.
And then they tell all their friends, and then their friends say, well, my friend's on Mars. You're an idiot. Earth isn't flat.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, well, your friend, have you been there before? Well, my friend's there.
Right.
And they would never lie to me.
Right.
Well, they're not lying because they can't go outside and explore completely to know.
Yeah.
They're just trusting in the experts that they brought them there out of stasis. They woke up. Now they're in this environment.
Right.
And now they're on Mars.
Right.
Of course they're going to believe it.
Right.
And they can talk to them and interact through Skype or whatever. We've been so used to doing this
Yeah.
for the last year.
Yeah.
Now this has become basically the mainstream way to connect with people now.
I guess my biggest question would be
So-
like, if so many people think the Earth is round because it's just they've been told for so long, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And like you thought that for so long until like 4 years ago. What now? Because you're like you have to go up so high to see the curvature of the water.
Mm-hmm.
What made you switch? Like what fact or like what's the biggest fact that made you switch to be like, no, that's wrong? Because I don't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
personally, I don't care if it's flat or round. I don't know
Yeah.
for sure.
Sure.
But I'm interested.
Water.
The water's the thing. The
Water is
tension.
the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It's our totem here in our reality.
Yeah.
It's how we know that we're in this physical reality where when you wake up out of a dream state and you come here, it's not like Groundhog's Day or anything.
Sure.
Like you're part of this place, And so when water is contained, it lays level and flat.
Right.
Again.
Always.
And always.
Yeah.
Okay? And so if it's not, if you tip the cup, water's going to tip out.
Yeah.
But the level of that water is still flat.
Yeah.
The cup isn't.
Right. It's
The
like
cup-
you balance a beer can like
Yeah.
this
Exactly.
because it's still flat.
Right,
but it's
because
in
the water,
equilibrium.
so that's what we are. We use our
what about,
ears
like,
to
just,
equilibrium.
Like, what do you think about like gravity?
So gravity is just buoyancy and density, really. And it's just this right here weighs more than the air around it. So think of like water, but what we walk in is much more displaced. And it's a water type of environment that we like fog in the morning. We can see visually the water vapor in the air when we see fog, but we don't see it now. We feel the ether as the wind blows by, but when it's calm, we don't feel it. And so that's not obviously my explanation, but what I'm trying to like pigeonhole your mind into is that when something falls to the ground and hits it, it's just as if it's in the water, but we call it, because it's more dense, it sinks to the ground of the water, right? If you're on the boat and you drop something, it's more dense.
Right.
It's the same concept. When you have a balloon and you go underwater 10 feet and you let it go, guess what's going to happen? It's going to pop right back up. Buoyancy and density. It's really the same thing.
So with like the days and the nights is another question of mine. Like, you can see the sun, whatever,
East to
circling
west.
around.
East in the
Do you
morning.
think
west in the
that's
evening.
like this is like a record spinning, or like what do you think?
Yeah, so the Earth is stationary, it doesn't move. There's no mechanical device that human beings have made to measure a spin or a movement of the Earth or anything like that. And that's where the theory of relativity comes in.
Right, because
They had to explain that
if
away.
you're spinning on this Earth, there's no way you could probably measure it. Actually, I guess.
What is it relative to?
satellites, it has to be relative.
Right, yeah.
That's the
So
only way, relative to the sun, to the.
yeah, so it's like Velcro.
satellite.
So we're Velcro to the Earth, right? We're always on the Earth. I wouldn't feel safe floating, to be honest. It's just me. But, so we haven't been outside of the Earth to see it spin. And even if you did see it spin, it would take 24 hours to see it spin completely. Because a lot of flat earthers use the idea of like, oh, you don't feel you're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour?
Right.
And it's like, I get the argument, it's fun, But if you were outside in outer space and you were to look at the Earth spinning, it would look like it's going super slow.
Well, like I'm still.
It's
kinda,
relative.
I'm just kind of still on this whole idea of like satellites, right? Do you
Yeah.
think satellites are real?
No.
So I guess my question is kind of.
Well, I mean, ask it, you know. I
Well,
mean,
because like there's so many people who have been on like the ISS and like other satellites, and they've literally like they see it with their own eyes, and they're not in it to push the propaganda, if that's what you think it is, of like the spherical Earth. Like they have traveled and they see, and then they come back around and they see like let's see, where's Africa? Like they'll see like, oh, a bunch of sand travel across the Atlantic Ocean into South America, and then they'll see, oh, that same wave of sand is now past like the Andes, and now it's going into the ocean on the other side. Like they see that with their own eyes. So it's interesting to me just like how obviously it's all like subjective, but there could be two completely different, you know, like from your point of view you're saying I've never seen it personally, but from their point of view they're saying I've seen it personally.
Yeah.
And this is literally what I've seen.
yeah.
So
And that's why we celebrate today, because a bunch of guys hung out with a guy and saw him do all of these different things, and now people believe that a man walked on water, lived a perfect life, so on and so on, and that's testimony, and people put their faith into that because that makes them feel better. It helps them solve problems and helps
like
put
religious
yeah,
faith?
exactly.
Sure. But,
Okay, so but it's the same thing.
Hey,
It's the same thing. Believing that these people well, hold on, because you might be. Because believing these people that did all this stuff on the ISS and you've never done it before and they testify to it and you believe them, you're no different than your friends who
I mean,
believe
I
in
do
Jesus.
believe there is always a faith of some sort,
'Cause
whether
we're
you
kinda
believe or you
friends.
don't believe, that's still faith.
Yeah, like,
you know what
we're-
I mean?
we're
Whether you
almost
believe or you
friends.
not believe, that's still taking
Yeah.
some sort of stance on the issue.
Right.
Yeah. So what's factual? Factual is water lays level and flat. Okay. And at what point does it bend?
Relative to us on this earth, because of gravity from the core is what I would say. But
Sure. Well, how far have humans drilled into the earth?
that's not part of where I'm coming from.
Well, you said the core of the earth, so I mean, you
just
feel.
like, you know.
yeah, but there's also water tension, right? I mean,
Well,
people who-
water tension is based on the material in which the water is in. So if it's a plastic or something, it might.
There's surface tension, though.
Yeah, and there's also viscosity to the water and the various other material that the water is in.
So if I
So-
pour this beer into my mouth like real quick, it's gonna go into my mouth. If I
Okay.
pour it real slowly, it'll wrap around this can and end up dripping off the back
Sure.
ass
Yeah.
end of it, right?
Yep.
So theoretically,
How does that make a ball in outer space?
well, if it's a slow enough turn,
Mm-hmm.
if I pour slow, right, it'll curve
keep
around
it.
the can, right?
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be against or anything.
Oh,
I'm
you're
just,
fine. I
I love
appreciate
learning
you sharing.
all this. So
Yeah.
like, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
I'm a thinker,
That's
but
a
like,
good thing.
like if you pour it slowly, it's annoying. When I was thinking last weekend, me and my wife were making maple syrup with my father-in-law, which I don't know if you know anything about maple syrup.
It's fabulous. I know that
delicious,
much.
right?
Yeah.
It takes a long ass time to make.
I
Right?
bet it
I'm gonna
does.
get way off track.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Like we were boiling down a shitload of sap to make like a can of maple syrup.
Yeah.
And later that day, my mom put it in this fancy looking, you know, what do you call it? It's a fancy looking pouring thing to pour maple syrup on.
Glass out.
It was, yeah, like ceramic,
Oh,
I
okay.
guess. And I went to pour it on my pancakes, and
Grips.
it wrapped around it because of the surface tension, I guess, and like poured off onto my placemat, and I felt like an asshole because my stepdad
Just
spent
made
all like 8 hours making this maple syrup, and I was like, oh shit, like mom,
Yeah.
you know, get a better
it's money.
pouring thing. Like we spent all day making this, and I just dumped 3 hours onto the placemat. But like water does the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Because of the surface tension, and it's weird.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Like I could see, I don't know this because I have no idea, and I spent no
Yeah.
time researching this at all.
Sure.
Like I could see a point where, like, if it was a slight enough curve, that it wouldn't just pour off some hypothetical edge. Which I know you said you didn't believe there was an edge, but I could believe that it would like curve a little.
Sure,
Without,
yeah.
like,
I totally understand where you're
Yeah.
coming from your perspective
Yeah,
right now, having
yeah.
not looked into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
oh, okay. You don't think that's
I've been around the block for a while.
Sure.
I've done this for
Right.
3
We're
years,
obviously
you
not
know.
trying to-
no.
No, and I appreciate you stop. That's why I come out. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't take
to
things
start the
personally.
No,
conversation.
I like to hear both sides of
So,
everything.
yeah, I think people should.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
have
the
a
thing.
bird-related question, and you may know nothing about this, but I
Yeah.
love birds. Birds, and I'm sorry, my wife's making fun of me right now. I love birds. There's a bunch of birds who travel, and butterflies, right? Monarch butterflies.
Yeah.
That allegedly travel, not allegedly, because, well, I've
They
never
do.
seen it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
They live in this shitty ass North American atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you may know nothing about this, but I
Yeah.
want to know. I just want to know your thoughts.
Uh-huh.
They live in this shitty ass cold 60% of the time. It's like annoyingly cold and the lakes are frozen.
Yeah.
And then they allegedly fly like hundreds of miles south. This like paradise where it's like nice and warm and like there's like food and water and stuff.
Goes down
And then they fly back. You know?
Yeah.
Why? Why don't they just stay down there?
Yeah, well, that's the great thing about having choice.
And like that may be
know?
not a flat Earth question.
Yeah.
But if there's anything to do with flat Earth and why they do that, I would like to know. Or if you just have thoughts on it in general, I'd like to know.
You just watching the
Yeah, I think it could be just. I don't really have too much to think about it. It's
Sure.
just the first
Not
thing
a
that
bird,
I've
not a
first time I
bird.
heard about it. But I know that.
Well, you know birds allegedly migrate.
Yeah. So and they also travel in packs,
Right.
much like fish.
Yeah.
Also, and so there is like a harmonicness to the ether and how we communicate with each
What
other.
is the ether?
Well, it's a description of which there is material between you and me,
Yeah.
and even though we can see each other clearly, there's within between us there's dust and
Yeah.
molecules and things of that nature. But there's also electricity, and so when you enter a room or you're around certain people and maybe you have like you just kind of feel a little anxious
Yeah.
or uncomfortable, that's those feelings, So when people walk by, they're kind of like, what an idiot, or he doesn't know what he's talking about. But then once they come up to the table, they sense my energy,
Sure.
and then they calm down and relax a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with fish and birds.
Yeah.
They fly together, they move in frequency with each other very fluidly,
Yeah.
and they, can communicate that way. And so there's ways that we communicate with that too in nature. But, because birds of a feather flock together. You guys are hanging out together because you guys think the same somewhat, hopefully not too much, where you disagree with everything and you guys never, challenge each other and grow, but, not so much that you just, argue all the time. But it is important to challenge each other and maybe step out the bounds a little bit. But we don't want to be lonely and lose friends too. But, for me, truth and doing the right thing is something that I like doing in my free time.
Yeah.
I've spent plenty of hours the last year or so inside, with winter and everything.
Yeah.
So, now this is what I do, and I just come out and challenge people because, this stuff isn't talked about on social media. So it's very interesting how I get it, how like people want to call me names and everything, but it's like, but everything on the media and social media is all the same.
Right.
So like, don't you guys want any like interesting new perspectives
I
or
do.
anything new to like think about?
I love it.
There is always the same thing,
Yeah. I
So,
personally love it.
but that's why they have sports and that's why they have other things that are distractions. By all means, if you want to get married and have kids and stuff, that's not a distraction because we need to procreate. But there are certain things that, are good in limitation and small amounts.
Yeah.
But to play video games and watch sports and, of that nature, I think that we're really drifting away from what it means to be an American,
Yeah.
especially right now.
What are your
So,
thoughts on hunting and fishing?
I'm all for it.
Hell yeah.
I'm playing Red Dead Redemption 2 right now. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
volleyball.
so yeah.
Nice
Yeah,
talking to you.
I'll be over there later sometime, I'm sure. Bye.
Bye.
So,
Do you have more questions?
Well, I don't know. That's why I wanted to hear you talk about hunting and fishing.
Yeah,
I'm a big outdoorsman.
yeah, I'm into like guns and stuff. I don't own one, but I think it's very important for us to have them and express our ability to hunt and provide for our family ourselves instead of being so I got to go to the store and do this or that, because you ask people where they get their food and they say from the grocery store.
Right.
Some people say, well, I get it from my farm.
Right.
Or I get it from my goats or whatever. And people don't even know how to do that anymore.
Right.
An educated kid in public school is an uneducated kid,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
So how often are you here set up?
twice a week or so. But you know, today's the first time.
And is this the Red Bull logo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's that for?
Well, it's just it's like these here. I got these stickers, and a friend of mine makes these, and
How come you're
she
sharing
just
your
uses
food
like
now, right?
familiar logos that we know of,
Okay. And then just like
and then
adding
just changes
different
them to
changes.
Flat Earth. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so like, oh, is that Spam or something like that, or
Why do you have shoes then?
so yeah, FedEx. So yeah, I mean, it's just a way to share in a different way. I feel like Flat Earth is a really positive type of experience for me, like learning about it and the people and the community and everything that is kind of involved with it. It's more of a positive group than a lot of the groups that we've seen over the last year, personally. So, but yeah, it is spiritual. There's a lot of spiritual ideas to it, and creator and stuff like that, and kind of how we can secure a remnant of people who want to share information instead of maybe compartmentalizing it into a building like a university or a school or what people would consider a secret society in quotes, and be just more open about that and let people decide the information. Because what happens is, for example, government or people that were here before me put information together into what they would call education system, and then they only divvy out certain information, and then people are basically kind of ignorant and they're naive because they believe that the authority that's teaching them these stories is telling them the truth. And
How
when
do you know the person who taught you all this isn't the same? Like how you know it's not the same situation?
yeah, because I can see it objectively. I don't need somebody to tell me that when water's contained, it lays level and flat. You know, I can see when the sun travels further away from me, if I comprehend perspective, the sun is, you know, that way, and the sky is here. And so when things travel further away, they converge together at a convergence point, which is called the horizon. That doesn't mean it's a curvature. It's the same thing on a level surface. If you walk further away from these lampposts, they become smaller and smaller and then disappear. It's not because the Earth is a globe. It's because your view is, you know, you're traveling further away. So, yeah, I mean, I don't need somebody. I did need somebody to introduce this idea because it is so hidden, and it does feel kind of uncomfortable at first to think that this isn't where we live.
I would
Yeah.
challenge you to go on.
I guess, yeah, kind of like he was saying, from my perspective, it doesn't really matter as much to me, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if it is or isn't, like, why would I care so much?
Sure.
Still
Yeah.
gonna live your life and do what you want to do at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but what about our future 100 years from now when we're dead? Do I want to be left behind knowing that, I didn't care? I mean,
What are you, why does it matter?
well, doesn't where you come from matter? Doesn't your history or like your experiences and what you've done matter?
So you think that by trying to get people to, like, also believe this, that then you'll, when you die, you'll, like, feel good about yourself and that you did something that matters?
Well, I mean, don't we all want purpose?
Yeah?
Yeah. So,
But so you think this is your purpose, I guess is what I'm asking.
I mean, to an extent, yeah. I mean, I think it's very important.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody believes that they're this, that's their family, and then they find out that all along their whole life they were adopted, isn't that pretty? Wouldn't that matter?
Yeah, so you think of this almost as like similar to like religion in a way for you.
It's an ability to connect to our Creator, yeah,
Yeah.
or creation.
That's what you take it as.
Or creation.
That person to yourself. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because I mean, if you believe that you live somewhere and you didn't come from there, then you might believe anything, especially if it's coming from authority, and then you're just going to continue to believe what they tell you and say over and over again. Then you never question anything. So I mean, then it gets to a point of, you know, then what does matter? Like, what are some things that do matter? Like for me, procreation matters.
So do you have kids?
I don't have kids, no. but I know that there are some serious concerns with this vaccine that's coming out, and that,
Does that have to do with you having kids or not having kids?
well, because I'm responsible for the human race. I think everybody should be responsible for us to procreate and continue 100 years from now. And if I feel that if we all take this vaccine, then we're going to be polluted, and we're not doing ourselves a very good favor. So,
We should probably get back.
hi
You
there.
the same guy?
Same guy, what?
Years ago.
What do you mean?
I met some
Thanks,
guy
man.
here who
Take
said
care.
Who said the Earth was flat.
It is flat. It wasn't flat. It is
I mean, you
flat.
must be the same guy, huh?
I could be.
You
Yeah.
hang out here a couple years ago, a couple
Yeah.
summers ago.
How are you
Can't
doing?
believe that, huh?
Well, it's still flat. Yeah, water still lays level and flat when contained.
How come you got the globe then?
Because that's what you believe. Right? You believe you live there?
I believe the Earth is round. I've been halfway around it.
Pizza's around. Pizza's around. Sir?
Huh?
Pizza's around. A penny is round.
Well, oh, you're meaning it's a sphere.
Sphere, there you go. Yeah.
Well, no, a penny's not a sphere, but a piece is.
Why, tell me, why do you believe the Earth is flat? I mean, what's your prevailing argument?
Water lays level and flat when contained. So, if the Earth is...
Okay, you got a flat deal like this. There's only one side to this flat then, huh? There's nothing on the other side.
Okay, so you think that if the Earth is flat, it's like a record floating in outer space?
No, I don't believe that.
Well, I mean, I don't understand
I
what you
haven't
mean
even-
by an
I
underside.
can't
If the
even
Earth is
con-
flat,
I can't even conceive it being flat, so I've never thought that.
yeah, I know. Yeah, you've
So I don't
been...
think there's a flat piece of whatever floating out in this universe.
Yeah, outer space isn't real, sir. We never landed on the moon. You never saw the moon landing on the radio.
Oh, this clap again this year?
Oh, your mask? Keep your mask on.
So why does the government perpetuate that idea then?
Because you believe it. You're so naive to believe that they would do that.
I'm a real skeptic myself.
No, you're not. You're wearing a mask right now outside. No offense, but you're wearing a mask outside.
Well, it is scientifically that's protecting us from
No, it's a-
from the,
Yeah,
It's a talisman.
from the virus, and also the
Are you
flu
wearing
has-
two masks?
And also the flu has dropped during this whole.
Yeah,
winter
because
season
they
because
renamed
they've
it
been wearing
COVID. They renamed it COVID.
How
masks.
come
Well, COVID's
you?
not the flu though.
How come you don't wear a mask? Is that because is the government violating some kind of right of yours or what?
I like oxygen.
I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of
We're
a...
breathing oxygen.
You're breathing oxygen through two masks, though, man.
Yeah,
You're-
but I'm still breathing oxygen though.
No, you're not. You're breathing in your own.
No, I'm breathing in oxygen.
Your own exhalation. You're exhaling something and you're breathing that back in.
And that's not harming me at all.
It is. It's like smoking a cigarette, basically.
But how's that scientifically true though?
Because it elevates your CO2 level. It is called epoxy. So
And what effect does that have?
hypoxia. You know what hypoxia is?
You know anybody personally that has died from COVID-19?
No, I don't. No. Do you know anybody personally that's died of cystic fibrosis?
No.
No.
And I worked in the hospital industry.
Yeah, I have
I've
cystic
seen a lot of-
fibrosis.
I've seen people die of cirrhosis, diabetes.
Yeah, people die all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never heard anybody have to get a lung transplant
But
because
I
of
know real
COVID.
people who died from COVID-19.
Has
So-
anybody gotten a lung transplant from COVID? Anybody?
I read about it.
A lung transplant for COVID? Yeah. People get lung transplants for CF all the time. And cystic fibrosis has a 100% mortality rate.
At the same time, a lot of
Yeah.
people can't afford another lung though.
So when this has a 99% survival rate, it's not anywhere near like CF. So I'm just trying to understand. How come you feel led to wear two masks outside?
Well, I'm protective of myself and others because
How-
I care about not affecting other people or not catching it or not catching it basically. So
Uh-huh.
I'm doing a smart thing. I'm doing a scientific thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to believe that, but there has been over 500,000 people that have died, and when it comes to being infected, it's been like I don't know how many millions, but it's been millions that's been affected by this virus, and it's not like the flu at all. And so I have to ask you, like, you believe the Earth is flat, right?
It is, yeah, of
Okay.
course.
What do you do on your spare time? Like, do you have like any type of leisure activity that you do?
Yeah, you're
Leisure
looking at it.
activities? Huh?
You're looking at it.
But what else do you do though?
Well, that's my personal life. You know, I don't feel led to have to share my personal life with a stranger.
Well, I don't mind sharing my. Well, actually, having a conversation.
Yeah, we're having a conversation. What do you do in your personal life?
Well, right now I'm just going for a walk. I was sketching earlier.
Yeah.
At the Lake of Isles, and now I'm just walking around
Yeah.
barefoot. doing-
Yeah, I like earthing too.
I do that.
Call it earthing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to sketch.
Uh-huh.
I like to sketch.
Do you sell your sketches?
No, I don't. I
Why not?
actually have a part-time gig, graphic design gig. So
Okay. Sure. So why don't you freelance and stop having this part-time gig as whatever you do and start your own business?
that is freelance.
It is your thing.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
am freelancing, and I get a stipend from someone that pays me.
Okay, great. Yeah. So what would you set up a table for? What do you feel passionate about?
Well, sketching.
Have you ever gone out like this and set up your easel and started to sketch something and...
That's what I just did.
Oh, you did? Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Do people like want to buy your stuff or you sell it? Do you bring a bunch of your pieces and sell them?
No, I don't. I carry a sketchbook around.
Okay.
So that's what I do. Those are some of the things that I do. I like having conversations with strangers.
Yeah, me too.
I heard you say something earlier about and now I'm not against taking guns away, nothing like that. I do believe in background checks for
Sure.
people, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I am for gun control. But when you said you was talking to this couple earlier about how they need to, you believe that people should, everybody should own guns and hunt, gather their own food. I'm not against hunting at all. I'm not against that. So when you say when you mean everybody, you're talking about despite the skin color, despite the ethnic group.
Yeah, I would hope that, to be reasonable, that they got those legally and they're not, illegal weapons and they haven't had the serial number or anything scratched off. And if they choose to want to own a gun, then that's their right to do that.
Of course, and I'm not against that.
Yeah, so I don't care about whether you're black or white or Asian or whatever. I mean,
The only reason the reason why I asked that is because when this is just me or how I think.
yeah, no worries,
And that's
man.
why I asked you.
Yeah,
Instead of
speak
just
freely.
assuming, because usually when I hear white folks talk about we should own guns,
Oh, you say like we, not white
I'm
people.
talking about white Americans.
Yeah, sure, of
It's
course.
like they'll say we, but they're not talking about black folks owning guns,
Yeah.
or brown people, or anybody that's not white. And then when someone starts saying gun or spouting gun rights for black people and other people of color, it's kind of like, oh well, we don't know because white America's been taught to fear black people and think that us black people we're the most dangerous on the
Yeah,
planet. and
I'm not
all that.
afraid of you.
Huh?
I'm not afraid of you.
Well, that's
I'm
good.
afraid of the television.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why I asked instead of just assuming.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking because I know that there's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, there are some white people that don't want black people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's all types of spectrums of color.
Yeah. Well, you have a good day.
Thanks, man. You too. Appreciate it.
Oh, just one other question.